What is your take on the male loneliness epidemic? So, this was a post made on Reddit, and this blew up for reference because lots of people, obviously, it's a pretty controversial topic, or at least a topic that a lot of people have opinions about. Now, a few of these were actually really quite interesting. So, some of these went the direction of, I think it's real, but it's also self inflicted, get out the fucking house. Others of which were basically sort of saying that male spaces have been eroding for decades now. There used to be tons of things guys did together until society collectively decided that bros hanging out was a threat. And this sort of goes on, right, in terms of things from shaming to all sorts. So, first of all, I really want this video to be something where I want you to share your thoughts as well, because I've obviously got my own opinions, but I also am quite interested to know what other people say. So, first of all, what are my views on the male loneliness epidemic? So, I will sort of say that I think there's been a few things that have happened. First of all, is social media. Social media obviously kept everything, or more so moved things more so online. And because more things are online, it means chances are a lot of the times you're not going to be going out and seeing as many people in person as you would do, right? That's obviously one thing, and that's something I believe has sort of changed. I mean, I know when I was younger, if you wanted to hang out with your friends, I'd be going on my scooter or or on my bike, and I'd be sort of going and sort of meeting up with them, or perhaps going to the beach or whatever. That stuff was cool. And then as social media and sort of stuff ramped up, I noticed there was less of that. And for me, at least, it was more playing video games, with a few friends, which don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed those days. They were really, really good. However, I did also start to notice that actually, things have also changed a bit. And all of a sudden, there isn't so much of perhaps, going out and seeing as many people, or at least things are more online lately. So, do I think that this is then just entirely a male loneliness epidemic? Well, I do also agree with, I think, some of the spaces with like for men being around is obviously declining a bit. Now, what I will say is this isn't, I wouldn't really call this just like an entirely an epidemic, because I think there's still opportunities for guys to go and talk to people, right? To go and meet people. I mean, for me, I'll train at the gym 4 times a week. And if I want to, right, I can, and sometimes I do, right, I can go up and, perhaps I can sort of chat to a few people, say, hey, like, I know, like, a few times, if I see someone that's like staring pretty intensely at like a wall, I might just sort of go over and say, hey, you okay? Right. And like just have a bit of a light chat with them. And that's cool. Right, and for example, I guess at the gym as well, it's like, I could always ask a guy if they wanted the spot or something, if they were doing like some sort of bench or dumbbell press, and they'd probably be pretty open to it, right? But the point being is that I don't think it's this thing where guys can't do anything anymore, right? Right, where they can't speak to people and so on and so forth. I guess really the next sort of thing is, well, what are people defining as loneliness? Because everyone's got different definitions. For me, I think that, look, I have probably a handful of friends, maybe about 3 or 4 close friends, and that's it. I used to have, a pretty big friendship group. I used to be friends with a lot of people in school and sort of sixth form and such, and even a bit in university, but I dropped halfway through, like, I dropped out of university. Anyway, point being is I used to have lots of friends, but now I don't. Now, does that make me lonelier? I wouldn't say so, because I quite enjoy having my quality friends and speaking to them. And at the moment, I spend a good bit of time with my family as well. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm lonely at the moment. However, for other people, it's different. For other people, they more so rely on having other people for support, on having other people to perhaps validate them, and to just simply acknowledge that they are someone that is there. So I don't really think there is a right or wrong answer, because someone is always going to argue that there is and that there isn't, because their definition is simply different and what they require. For me, I don't require so much validation or necessarily support and stuff from other people. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, right? Because for me, I'm quite happy to just do my own thing to just work on the stuff I'm working on, and that's fine for me, right? And I do really appreciate being able to spend time with others, but I just don't need it as much. So yeah, I guess really it's just like I'd really like to know your thoughts on this, and if you think there is so much of a male loneliness epidemic, because like I said before, right? I mean, I can sort of scroll through this, and yeah, like it's always quite interesting to sort of see what other people are saying with this. I think at the end of the day, it's like, look, social media got more people online. That meant that you were less likely to see more people in person, and I think as well part of it is like, okay, well, if you are feeling lonely, if you are feeling that perhaps you're not around as many people, as a guy, you can either sit there and you can complain or you can do something about it. I mean, the sort of quote that is like, if you want to get something you've never had, you got to do something you've never done. And it's like, look, if all of a sudden you've gone from having friends to having no friends or going to speaking to loads of people to speaking to no people, then you need to do something different now in order to get that new thing. So if that means going up and speaking to people, and I think a lot of the time, like people make this out to be a massive thing, right? I mean, for example, my example with the gym, right? It's like, well, it could even be something as sort of, just saying, hey, you okay to someone who just looks a bit sort of down. Or perhaps, for example, in the gym, it could be like just, asking to spot someone or something. Now, those are the specific examples, but the point being is, look, as a guy, if you're not going to do something about it, no one else will. And that's sort of something that I've learned over time. It's not a nice fact, but it is something that I do believe to be true. But let me know your thoughts on this. I think I've made my point pretty clear, but I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. That said, take care.